I don't use the term Arab Spring because it's too soft. It takes away from the human dimension of what people are doing when there's millions of people who are going out onto the streets and challenging their governments and dying in many cases. And the term Arab Spring makes it look like it's one process when it's not. It's many different uprisings in different countries with different conditions and different regime responses and different outcomes. And it's part of the kind of American innocence and I think global affairs that you have a spring and things are getting better and the birds are singing and the world is be a more pleasant place. And the Americans, I think, like to couch these developments in terms that perhaps make them feel good, and maybe it's part of the optimism of the United States as a country, maybe it's part of the ignorance of the United States as an international actor. There's many different reasons. It's really hard to know why this term caught on. We actually held a seminar to discuss what should we call it. And we came up with this sense that uprisings for democracy, or just uprisings. The United States' official response to the uprisings when they first started in early 2011 was a little bit hesitant. The U.S. wasn't quite sure what to do. But after 4 or 5 months, the U.S. became a little bit more clear about the fact that it should really support these uprisings, because these are people fighting for freedom and democracy and dignity and their rights as citizens, which is what the United States says it stands for. So there's a bit more clarity at the rhetorical level in the U.S.'s commitment to the uprisings and the rights of citizens. But at the policy level, it's not so clear, because the United States, helped militarily defeat Gaddafi in Libya, is humming and hawing in the Syrian situation, and then Bahrain is completely okay with putting down the uprisings. So I think the hallmark of America's response to the uprisings is a combination of confusion and perplexity, which they still haven't figured out. And they're still playing games with the Syrian opposition and trying to create new opposition groups with American support, which is completely unrealistic. It's a new form of kind of neo-colonialism. And the Americans are not good at colonialism. They've never were, and they're not going to be good at neo-colonialism either. So they should give up this nonsense and get back to just being decent Americans and helping people who are fighting for their freedom and for democracy. And if you do that, you're going to be rewarded. And you're going to have democratic countries who are going to emerge all over the Middle East, and they will support the U.S. and be friends with the U.S. if the U.S. help them become democratic. We've had now almost 2 years since the uprising started in December of 2010, and we can see the process of change starting to happen. And the most important single dynamic, I think, that is happening now that we need to keep our eye on is the writing of these new constitutions, because they bring together all the important elements of what's going on. They bring together all the important players in the country. They are happening in a public political sphere, which is there for the first time ever. They touch on all the key issues that people are talking about: socioeconomic rights, role of women, role of minorities, Islam, religion, secularism, the military, jobs, private sector, foreign actors. Every issue that's important to people is on the table to be discussed. But keep in mind that these constitutions in other countries took a couple of 100 years in some cases. In the United States, it took a couple of 100 years for women to get the vote and black people to get the vote and all people to have equal rights. But the Arab world has now embarked on that process, and that's the important thing.